Welcome to SoulShift, where grounded science meets soulful transformation and where real conversations spark real change. Whether you're here for your first listen or you're tuning in as a part of our growing community, I'm so glad you're joining us today. I'm Allie Anderson, and I'm here with my incredible co-hosts, Christine Morgenstern Shin and Mindy Gorman-Plutzer. And together, we're honored to share conversations that heal, conversations that connect, and conversations that inspire. Today, we are joined by someone who's not just making waves, she's transforming the tide in healthcare. Dr. Kathy Campbell is with us today. And Dr. Kathy Campbell is a PharmD. She is nationally recognized wellness pharmacist. She is an author. She's a visionary leader who's on a mission to transform healthcare from reactive disease management to proactive prevention first care. For more than 30 years, she's served 5 generations of families through Medicap, Owasso Wellness Pharmacy and Compounding in Oklahoma, where she pioneered pharmacist-led programs focused on metabolic health, nutrition, and lifestyle medicine. She's the founder of Wellness Pharmacy Network, and she's the author of Obesity, the Modern Famine. And I can tell you, her TED Talk by the same name is a must-watch. Kathy is a sought-after speaker and an advocate. She's empowering individuals and communities to delay disease, restore vitality, and to create a true culture of health. Today's conversation explores what it means to be a wellness pharmacist, the powerful intersection of love and biochemistry and healing, and why Kathy believes love heals, chemistry counts, and the patient-centered health teams are the future. Let's dive in.
Welcome to SoulShift, a sacred space where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life come together in perfect harmony.
Each week, we explore the gentle art of transformation. SoulShift holds space for your beautiful, messy, perfectly imperfect human experience.
Meaningful change doesn't have to break you open. It can unfold softly, like morning light.
Together, we'll uncover tools that honor your truth, share conversations that touch your soul, and celebrate the exquisite complexity of what it means to be human.
Your presence here is a gift. Let's shift with grace,
with love,
together.
Dr. Kathy, welcome. We are thrilled you're here with us today.
I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to jump right in. Kathy, I'm truly excited to introduce you to our audience today. I've had the pleasure of knowing you for several years now. And as you know, I've always admired your brilliance and your beautiful approach to what you call foundational health. And to kick us off, can you share what you mean by foundational health and how that differs from the typical let's fix the disease model that we often see in healthcare?
You know, it's a great question. So as a pharmacist, I'm highly trained in chemistry. Okay, that's kind of the nature. You know, I think the second most trained in chemistry is the nutritionist, to be honest. But in pharmacy, that is 7 years of brutal work, right?
Sure.
But what that actually gives you is a real breadth of metabolic process and how medications manipulate or work at that metabolic level. We call them mechanisms of action. So that's kind of my training. But I just never really stayed with just pharmaceuticals when I started looking at the things that impacted metabolic process. And then as I started helping people actually kind of figure out what was going on, it just occurred to me that our whole society is really challenged on having a good foundational set of chemistries that has our bodies work right. Well, why is that? Well, we evolved for about 5 million years a certain way, hunting and gathering and such. And there were certain nutrients, certain levels of movement that were just part of it. And agriculture started about 14,000 years. And then what's happened the last 15 years is so different than what the machine was designed for. It just occurred to me, nobody has a good foundation for function, okay? And so that's kind of when I start helping people, I go to those basics. Are you getting plant into your diet? Are we eating any vegetables? Are we eating processed foods? Are we deficient or are we toxic or yes? And then as a pharmacist, I can factor in medications because 7 out of 10 patients in the United States or Americans are on some kind of chemistry altering or metabolism altering impact. So that's what I kind of mean by foundational health. Do we have the basics right? And it's kind of amazing when you help patients get the basics right, how much better function they have. That's what I mean by that. And it came over years of trying to figure out why everybody was so sick, why I was so sick, why I had an obesity issue genetically or otherwise. And so addressing the foundations has proven to be a good strategy.
That's a great approach. One of the things I tell my clients often is I'm not against medication at all, but what we want to do with our diet and lifestyle is we want to give the body what it needs to so the medication can work, right? And we do have to back it up to those basics that you talked about, those foundations. And if we don't have those foundations, the medication can't even do its job.
You're exactly right. And I've shared this with my colleagues and my peers all the time. And what most people don't realize, and even in medicine, they don't realize, or they just conveniently forget, is that medications are often only approved by the FDA as an adjunct to diet and exercise. Well, why would they say that? It's because they are basing the drug action on a foundational set of metabolic system, right? And I think it's part of the reason they're not working. Because when I get the foundations right, all of a sudden I got to take people off of medicines because they work too well. So you're exactly right. And I'm with you. I'm not against medicines. I'm actually the expert. I know how to use them. They're tools in the toolbox. But I'm completely against the people that I know and love needing them, right? So what can we do to help people not need medicines or not need more? And I think that's a great way to approach this. And I know my patients appreciate that kind of advocacy as well.
That's so brilliant what you're talking about, foundational. But that leads me to this question. It's one of the titles you use is wellness pharmacist, right? So is this something that people can relate to? I doubt that it's something they're familiar with. And what does that role look like in a society that is so hungry for the quick fix?
Well, that's a great question. And I have been defining the wellness pharmacist for a little bit and am creating it as a subspecialty in pharmacy. But basically, it is a trained pharmacist who utilizes those skills to delay the onset and progression of disease. So we're going upstream, and we are including in our expertise not just pharmaceuticals. Because most people don't realize the definition of a drug is any chemical that impacts the metabolic system. So it could include botanicals, it could include nutraceuticals, it could include stress and endogenous overproduction of cortisone. I know what cortisone does very well because I have it in a pill bottle and I had to learn that. But we happen to forget that we're overdosing ourselves with it all the time. Same with insulin, the most powerful drug I have in my pharmacy, most deadly drug potentially is insulin. But we tend to forget the fact that we're overproducing that endogenously. So as a wellness pharmacy, I'm taking all that into consideration and then helping to empower the individual upstream of the disease, if we can. Currently, dispensing a medication is one part of what pharmacy has done for years, but it's only one part. I'm a clinical pharmacist, so I'm often looking to see, are the therapies that we are using working? Okay. Now, food is to me a therapy. I mean, I dispense recipes and I tell people to eat stuff, and I literally think of food the same way I think of an IV drip. To me, it's a dosage form of chemistry, right? And so as a wellness pharmacist, we are expanding our skill set to include these other therapeutic strategies. I've often felt as a pharmacist, I was the enforcer. The doctor diagnosed, and then it was my job to get the job done, right? It was my job to create the right therapy. If I was in a hospital, I would probably be making the therapy and making those determinations. And then it's my job to communicate in such a way with the client, the patient, so that they are engaged and empowered in the therapy. You guys know better than anybody that what you know doesn't matter, but it's what the client knows, the patient knows, and what they can routinely do. That's where health happens. And it's the same whether that's a dietary approach or if it's a medicinal approach or if it's a physical therapy approach. The patient has to be educated, empowered, and supported in whatever therapies we actually do. So I see the wellness pharmacy as dispensing all of that.
Yeah. So it's a blend of biochemistry and mindset, which sets people up for making a personal choice that's empowering to their health, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would imagine that the patients, the clients that are seeking you out are open to this kind of thinking, right? But if someone were to come into your pharmacy cold and in seeking your advice and your wisdom, what would a conversation be like that you wouldn't even think was possible 20 or 30 years ago?
Well, I've always loved on people when they came in to just open them up and to see how I could serve them. But when I get the opportunity to dig a little deeper, which is usually in an appointment, I often just start engaging as to where are they, what do we know, and where do you want to go? And so that can be so unique in a community pharmacy setting because we see such a gamut of where people are. You know, having done this for over 33 years, I had to figure out a long time ago what I was there for. And my job is for you to have a great life. And health to me is foundational to that. So if I have somebody coming in with stage 4 cancer, I want them to have a great life. And I'm going to figure out what I can do to facilitate and support that. Now, if I have somebody, like I had a lovely lady we're coaching right now, and Chris, you will really get this. When I first engaged with her, she was overweight and very tired and in her late 30s. And I started asking her about her babies, how many babies and when her timeline. And she had her first one like at 16, and then she had her next one at 25. And then she had her third pregnancy at 27. And then there was a pause. And I'm like, I'm thinking, you're exhausted. You're exhausted, right? You have no nutrients. You are just full exhausted. And then she said, and the third pregnancy were triplets. Oh. I love your response because that is stress. I mean, we could feel what her body has been going through, right? Completely deficient and then keeping babies alive all the time for the last decade. And so every conversation is a little different, but the foundation of them wanting the best for them and supporting them on their journey is pretty foundational when you come into the space.
Yeah, foundational for sure. Really.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Well, Dr. Kathy, I'd like to ask you, I know you have these essential takeaways, love heals, chemistry counts, and the patient-centered teams matter that Allie had mentioned before. I'd love if we could just dive into each of those a little bit more, and so people can actually connect because they're so powerful on its own. And the love heals, that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
In terms of, how, when you're working with someone, how do you see whether it's emotional connection or love or just a positive mindset overall, how it impacts their biological outcomes?
It's very powerful. So I look at what I do from a pharmacist lens. Okay. That's my training. And I think of 3 big buckets: pharmacology, which is the interplay of all chemistry on the body; food pharmacology, which is the interplay of the chemistry from food, which currently they've identified over 26,625 chemicals in whole foods. Not 100 vitamins, but thousands of chemicals that are in food. So I look at the interplay of that on the body. And then that's not even looking at the toxic impact of ultra-processed or all that. Ooh, that's almost in the drug side. Right? It's so toxic. So pharmacology, food pharmacology, but the most impactful and in some ways the most challenging is what I call stress pharmacology. And a lot of people, when we say the word stress, I think we all have that sense of what that looks like. That might be adrenaline. That might be cortisol. That might be worry. all of this. But there's another side to that biochemistry, and it's almost in the quantum level. So what I mean by it's hard to measure, right? It's hard to measure. And we're in a medical system that if you can't measure, it didn't happen. I'm like, that's not actually the case. It's not always the case, especially in this realm. The other side of the stress hormones negative is the positive, is the dopamine and the serotonin and the, all the love and connection and purpose and support, safety. That's the other play that is in this stress area. And the research around loneliness is powerful research, right? Way worse than being obese, way worse than smoking 15 cigarettes a day, way worse than, I think it's 6 alcoholic drinks a day, way worse than being sedentary is being alone. Well, that's powerful chemistry. And in the pharmacy, we still dispense love. And I tell my peers the most powerful chemistry we have to facilitate health is first love and second food. And unfortunately, our modern healthcare system dispenses neither. And it didn't used to be the case. It used to be your doctor knew you and your pharmacist knew you. And all you had to do was go into that safe space and you were better. But unfortunately, that's not where we are in current modern healthcare. But when I say love heals, it creates the conditions for the body to recover and to thrive. And the absence of it is incredibly damaging.
I completely agree. And thank you so much for sharing that, because our listeners are here because they love science and soul. And so I know they'll be able to resonate with what you're sharing. And, if you're upset or depressed or just lethargic or even having a bad day, you're going to consume, as you shared, your nutrition, your food differently.
Yeah.
You're going to consume everything differently, right? Whether it's a family member speaking to you, how you interpret what they say, that energy that you're saying, or the energetics that isn't measured in the same way that our exes are measured,
right,
doesn't discount how powerful it is, right?
It's very powerful. And, the second one, chemistry counts, is almost in the next vein of that. So I think how I came up with that is I grew up being told that calories are all that counted. And to me, that's one of the biggest myths, lies, potentially, that has been perpetrated on society, because not all calories are the same. It's the chemistry, not the calories, that count. And one of the things that I put on some of my presentations, especially to pharmacists who are still in that mindset, I said, okay, a 32-ounce soda is 750 calories, right? Well, how much broccoli is that? It's 24 cups of broccoli. So if you ate the same amount of calories, you would have very different biological impacts because they're different chemistries. And the other thing is, when I look at insulin, I can make people overweight with just shooting them up with insulin. So that's not a calorie impact. That is a chemistry impact, right? And a metabolic impact. And so I think we've been lulled into this actually patient shaming around the metabolic process. And that's where it's not the calories, it's the chemistry that counts. And we've got to make sure people have enough of what they need. And often I tell patients over and all, you got to eat a heck of a lot of the right stuff. You got to eat a lot of the right stuff and absorb it. The whole gut thing is a pretty big thing. You got to acquire it, eat it, and absorb it to even have a chance of it getting where it needs to go. And so that's where the chemistry counts comes from.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, when our clients start eating healthier, they can't believe how big their plate is, like how much food is on their plate, but they feel so much better, right?
Do your patients get annoyed by that?
annoyed by,
how much they have to eat. You keep telling them to eat more.
well, sometimes it's just more of a mindset shift
Yeah.
because they have that fear of food sometimes.
Right.
And eating too much, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's maybe stepping in terms of being comfortable, but once they do actually feel more comfortable and they digest and they feel the output of energy and vitality, that type of thing, then it all comes together, you know?
I have a body composition machine behind me, and I got that because I started at 25, and so we were all aging, and I knew the research around muscle mass and aging. So I started measuring it, and the sickest people I see are normal weight, middle-aged women who are 10 to 15 pounds below where they should be on muscle. And that's largely because they were two things, probably. They've been told to eat less and exercise more.
Mm-hmm.
And they were subject to no hormone replacement, which is a whole nother conversation. But both of those are catastrophic for muscle and bone.
And you're preaching to the choir here. What you're talking about is really all the work that I've been doing recently, working with women in midlife and beyond who have basically been gaslit by the diet industry, right?
Yes.
The voice of the inner critic has been perpetuated by basically an industry that is profiting from our self-doubt.
I call it, we've been groomed. And I use that word very strategically and very responsibly, but there has been a corporate manipulation of our lifetime in some ways. And I think the beauty of the internet is not only beyond us actually getting to talk about it here, but the amount of information that can question those narratives. And that your clients and my clients are finding people that can support them in another way.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true. But, you know, when you think about this industrial complex, right, it's really a brilliant business model. Convince women that they should behave a certain way and then blame them for when it doesn't pan out the way they want it to, that they didn't try hard enough, they didn't have enough willpower, they didn't want it badly enough.
Mm-hmm.
So we really need to do some major mindset shifts here.
Yeah, a lot of loving on people, because that is where they are empowered to try to create a new identity in this conversation. I had a woman once say, "Kathy, I hear your voice in my head." And I kind of chuckled like, well, that's bad. And she goes, no, it's better than my voice. It's a new voice that I need to hear. And I was forever like, okay, keep talking, because people do need another voice from the industrial complex and the shame conversation.
They do. And to part of the conversation that you just had with Chris, you know, about people being amazed at how much food can be on their plates, we're also coming up against a wall sometimes because the woman doesn't trust her hunger. She doesn't trust the fact that she can stop when she's had enough. She doesn't even understand the true meaning of satiety. Women have shut themselves off from feeling hunger and fullness in many ways. So it's a very nuanced situation and a very nuanced process of healing.
I also find that there's a certain, women definitely fall into this, but men as well, the servant identity. And there are a lot of us that took on an identity early in life of being the helper or the servant, you know, very young conversation. And what I often see is a byproduct of that very successful strategy, because we're all servants in some ways, specifically teachers in healthcare, is you are not attuned to your body. You are attuned to everybody around you, but you really haven't had the luxury of even time to listen or to learn over the course of your life. And I find as I coach people, trying to interrupt and teach them how to expose them to actually listening and learning to listen is a big part of that process. I'm sure you guys see that all as well.
Oh, no question, no question. But I think it's up to us as practitioners to know how to ask the right questions, to facilitate a new culture of listening, right? And teaching our clients to listen to their bodies when they're whispering before the body starts to scream.
Well, that's where longevity in health lies, I think. It's not just you're going to lose weight and you're going to be on something and get 50 pounds off and done. No, that's where they can have a long and vital life, is when they learn that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for someone who's listening, who's feel stuck in basically what is nothing more than symptom management mode,
Mm-hmm.
what would you give them as 2 or 3 foundational steps that they can take today to start moving forward, to be more proactive in caring for themselves?
Where do we start? I think the food is an easier place to start, and just start with a basic. I usually coach on a modified Mediterranean, try to get more plant in and process out. So we just start there. And sometimes I will do a detox type of an approach, but a lot of times I'll do a lower glycemic approach and teach people about food. I think there's so much that we've lost ancestrally about our food knowledge that's part of it. The other thing is I always do a medication review. I have to see to what degree the medications on board are altering digestion, are contributing to possible insomnia or sleep issues. There are definite effects from medications, both desired and side effects, that we need to incorporate and listen to on a broader scale. Just because you're on an acid blocking drug and your stomach doesn't hurt, we need to now start extrapolating out what that's doing to digestion. Or if you're on an anticholinergic or an antihistamine, what is that doing? And then if you're on 10 different medications, none of which have been experimented on in your situation, then we need an expert that can somewhat extrapolate that out. So a medication review beyond the doctor that gives it to you or the doctors. I often see people on multiple doctors with multiple medicines and nobody is really overviewing it. So the med review is very important. Then I look for nutrients. We have to do food as good as we can. There's no supplementing away from what food provides, period. But we do know, especially if there's medications on board, there are nutrient deficiencies, either secondary to the medication use, the disease process, or just a misnourished diet. Okay. And so I will put people on some basic, what I call my essentials, that are some basic things to start getting their systems to potentially work towards a better foundational approach.
I think this makes sense to a lot of us. And I want to ask you, people who come to you, you're the pharmacist, so they're coming to you to get medications. You have said that your goal as a wellness pharmacist is not just to manage the medications, but actually to decrease their need for even needing the medications to begin with. And you have spoken into that so beautifully. I'm wondering, though, when they come to you, what kind of mindset shifts you have to work with these clients? Because I imagine they don't come to you thinking they're going to get nutrition and lifestyle advice, and they're ready to take the medications their doctor has prescribed as the fix or the cure. So how do you talk into mindset or habit shifts for these people so that they can really grasp the importance of the foundations, and they need those foundations in order for the medications, if they're going to take them, to actually do their job?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've been doing this a while, and many of the patients I see are looking for something else. Okay. They are actively looking, and I have branded and marketed myself to provide that. And so they are often looking for a food strategy or a medication review or something different that they're not getting. And often I'm kind of somebody that takes all the pieces and explains it to them as well. It's like, what is the doctor thinking here? I mean, I can't tell you some of the things that people have gone to 10 doctors, 10 different referrals, and this one lady, the last time she got a call from anybody, it was, "We think you've had a stroke, go get this medicine." And I'm like, you have not been fully evaluated. I need you to go to the emergency room. Sometimes it's that way. So sometimes people are actually looking for that deeper dive. But I think the ones that are very interesting is the one that I don't know very well, that are just picking up something at the pharmacy. And I'm at the point of talking to them about this, and I add a soup recipe. Or say they've had a surgery and they're in the healing mode, or they have a wound, okay? And I'm like, listen, you can only heal from the inside out, so I need you eating this stuff. And I need you a mug an hour. Like I said, it's an IV drip. We got to get the good stuff in so you can knit yourself back together. And they go, well, that's an interesting thing for a pharmacist to talk about, right? Or say I'm dispensing a statin or a cholesterol-lowering medication, and I will tell them about CoQ10, or I will ask them to show me their laboratory. Because as a pharmacist, my job is really not to just dispense. My job is to manage, monitor, and optimize whatever therapy is in my patient's care. So I like to see laboratory to see what direction we're going. Are we hurting the liver with this? And so those kind of conversations, or I'll say, what's your vitamin D level? So I'll be able to engage in those kind of conversations in a proactive conversation that if we can intervene right then, we may have a real positive direction from there. So there's a lot of different ways, and it's all based in that foundation. I want you to live a great life. And this conversation is going to forward that, in my opinion.
Kathy, you are a gift. You are a true gift.
Hot mess sometimes, I think.
This is why I wanted you here. We're such a gift. I think all of our listeners are loving this, but I know we have more questions.
Sure, go for it.
So, Kathy, in reference to, you just spoke about the mindset shift, and I'd like to go a little deeper, moving even beyond nervous system regulation. We talk a lot about embodied wellness, and it sounds like with your past sharing about Love Heals, you're a big advocate of that. I was wondering, in your view, like, what does embodied wellness actually look like in real life? The mom with the 3 children or the husband with the 2 jobs, and how can you assist them with that?
It's funny, going back to that conversation around Love Heals, you almost have to define what love is, and I define love as accepting someone or something as they are and as they are not. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so often I think helping patients accept who and where they are as just accepting that, okay? I have a fundamental belief that the body is always doing everything necessary to keep someone alive.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really get that and you can honor that, it's an accepting and a loving to honor that. So say you're obese, your body is taking care of you. Say you're hungry, your body is taking care of you. Say you're in pain, the body is doing exactly what, given the scenario, given the circumstances, it is doing exactly what's appropriate, given the inputs. And so when I work with patients, I try to get them to see that and to honor that. Because when you get there, then what's possible is everything else.
Mm-hmm.
What's possible from that point is, what do you want? And that's a really important question. I find one of the hardest questions to ongoingly answer. What do you want for yourself and your future in your life? Most of us have had that beaten out of us by the time we were 3, right? Stop asking. And so this whole concept of wanting is, for many people, very uncomfortable. But if I can get them to articulate, I want to see my granddaughters graduate.
Mm-hmm.
I want to travel. I just want some energy. That's our destination, right? And that's the beginning of them creating a different culture, creating a different environment, taking on a new way of being, potentially taking on a new identity of seeing themselves as somebody, one who can get that and that can journey towards that and be empowered for that. So identity is a big part. You can call it mindset, but having somebody see themselves as able, capable, and healthy, of being healthy and being successful, that's part of that journey and part of that coaching.
And that's really powerful because, I love that you're honoring their values, their beliefs, and like you said, meeting them where they're at is just so vitally important for that rapport and that trust factor. And then for them to actually feel safe in their body as well, right?
I don't know about you guys, don't you? If people ask you what you want, that's not an easy thing to answer.
No.
Right.
Especially for helpers, right?
Oh,
It's about everybody else.
right? Yes. It's confronting. Often we have to start with what you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
That's a back door into that. But if you can empower somebody to want and to dream, I think that's the first step. And that is new. Yeah, I mean, that is sometimes so uncomfortable, but it's a fun journey.
Yeah. And what you're saying about backing it up, most people are coming to us because they have identified what they don't want.
Yep.
Right. The challenge, though, is getting them to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good first step.
I think it's a gift for you to share about the possibility of creating a new identity and teaching them to have curiosity about that.
Oh, yes.
Because once we can start doing that, I feel like a whole new door opens, of this world that we didn't even know existed. And a lot of it has to do with the self-love, self-worth piece.
Well, and imagine if it was playful.
Mm-hmm.
I have fun challenges. I'm a Generation Xer. We had to do all this work stuff. So I tell my daughters I was fun challenged. But if there was play and fun and lightheartedness and connectedness, it changes. It makes it so much easier. And that's unfortunately not a cultural conversation we have much right now. And so I always encourage people to seek that out and work to help create that.
You did mention in your TED Talk that you wanted to be able to do some type of a dance, right? For your granddaughters.
Yeah, I'm going to twerk in my granddaughter's wedding. But what I didn't say in that TED Talk, so for the listeners, my youngest daughter was incredibly embarrassed by my dancing, okay? And so I jokingly said to her, I'm going to twerk at your granddaughter's wedding. Now, I'm going to be about 90 years old. And so as a goal, as a health strategy, I want to have muscle and balance so I can do the dance, but I want a brain that knows I'm embarrassing her. But on the next piece, what hit me a little after that TED Talk is I need a daughter healthy enough to reproduce. I need her to meet a hairy-legged guy that's healthy enough to reproduce. So that vision and that destination and that what I want really guides my journey today. It's what has me be out there creating a nationwide network because I want a culture that produces healthy grandbabies.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be easy for grandbabies to be born and to live long, vital lives. And that is not what's going on right now. So that fun destination is a pretty powerful stand, and it calls me forward with daily actions. We got work to do. So yeah, it's fun. And she's looking forward to that day, actually, I think.
Well, it's a really beautiful why. So thank you for sharing.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that why. And I think all of us could resonate with that why, right? We all want our future generations to be healthier than we are, right? So we want to be introducing health as best we can.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, this has been amazing conversation. Can you share some of your resources with our listeners? And we know you have the book, Obesity, the Modern Famine, and what other programs you have or any upcoming offerings that we can share with our listeners?
Yeah, the book is a really good resource. I wrote it for patients, but I cited it for practitioners. There's like 330 citations, but it's written as I would communicate with a patient. And so I've been told by patients they've enjoyed it, but also by practitioners saying, Kathy, you've got it all in there. Because when I say obesity, the modern famine, my assertion is that we're starved of certain things, and not just the chemistry within the metabolic and the electron transport chain, but also the starvation of purpose, the starvation of connection and love and safety. So I think that is probably my single best resource. I've got my wellness pharmacy network that I'm building out. And I'm building it out not just for pharmacy, but I'm really hoping that it is a resource for other allied practitioners. Because one of the things that had been said as I would interact with different parts of the allied practitioners is, where can we find other pharmacists like you? And so part of this network strategy is to give access for practitioners to partner for their patients to have a bigger, maybe a more robust clinical picture that can be addressed in creating health for patients. So rxinstitute.com is what we're doing there. And then pretty much that's where I'm at. I think my schedule is getting filled up, but feel free to reach out to me. I love reaching out and supporting whoever I can.
Beautiful. I can't wait to read the book.
Thank you.
So I've got one final question for you.
Sure.
What does a soul shift mean to you in this season of life?
Oh, that's great. What first came to mind is menopause. But talk about a soul shift. There is something fundamentally magical that happens in between the hot flashes, in that you're really getting a sense, for me, that the time is now. And all those doubts you may have had, or all those things that have kept you from living and being in your magic, they're gone. Now's the time. And so that's the soul shift. I think it's a beautiful time of life to embrace and then make the difference that you're here to make.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I love that. The time is now.
So beautiful. Thank you so much.
Time is now. So let her rip. That's what I say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that. As someone who's entering menopause right now, I'm accepting that. The time is now. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, and really for sharing your heart and sharing your unique perspective with us today.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
You know, every time I hear you speak, I'm reminded that healing isn't about the protocols, right? It's about the presence, and it's about love, and it's about believing that change is possible. And for our listeners, I want to thank you for joining us today, whether you're walking your dog or you're sipping your tea right now, or you're stealing a quiet moment between your chaos. We are just honored you're here with us today, and hope that you learned from Kathy and you wrapping yourself in a hug. And you'll find all of Kathy's links and resources in our show notes. And as always, we're all here together to shift gently and with intention. And until next time, take care of your soul, trust the science, and know that you're not alone on this path.
Thank you for sharing the sacred time today.
We hope something in this conversation touched your heart
And offered nourishment for your soul's journey.
Remember, transformation is most effortless when it happens one tender shift at a time.
Until next week, we invite you to carry one insight from today into your life.
Not as a task.
Think of it as a superpower to yourself.
If something resonated, we'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Your words ripple outward, offering connection and comfort to others walking this path beside you.
If SoulShift feels like home, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review.
Your support will help us reach more hearts that need to hear they're not alone.
We're holding you in love, so know you're not alone. Your journey matters.
May your heart be filled.
And may your path be filled with grace.